What's up, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Sharp Objects companion podcast presented by The Disorderly. Head over to disorderly.com for the best in sports and entertainment. Disorderly Media on Twitter, Disorderly ENT on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Rizner, NickRizner. So, I just finished, Season 1, Episode 6, Cherry. Great one. I mean, this show is just so good. I can't say it enough, but even when I like a show, it usually dips. Like, I think I even said in the past few episodes where you know, I guess dip episodes, there wasn't that much going on. It was kind of slower paced, but they're still really, really good. And then when it returns to full form and you have a great episode like we had tonight, I mean, shit, it's just a good show. It's a really good show. I would recommend it to anyone. Obviously a little dark, so if you have friends that are a little more sensitive to those kind of things, I would say probably skip this one. But if you can handle it, which I love these kind of shows, it's just excellent. So I'll say it again. I can't get over how well they captured the vibe of the book. Obviously, I read the book. Just really well done. And you know, the most direct comparison I can make is to the Dark Objects, Dark Places, the movie that with Charlize Theron, and then of course Gone Girl, the big major motion picture of Ben Affleck. And I feel like out of those three movies, this one really captured Gillian Flynn's writing better than, you know, the other two did, I think. So I'm loving this so far, and it's really excellent. Just, you know, some finer details. I love the identical sequence with the chief getting ready in the morning. You know, we saw that in the last episode as well, and you see the sort of repetitiveness of it, the routine of it. And I love, you know, when they shoot it the same exact way, it really drives that point home. But I also love the contrast between the chief and Adora's husband, Alan, their mornings, because Alan's waking up alone on like a pull-out sofa. It's like a really sad existence. And you have Adora's husband, who basically, you know, Alan won the romantic rivalry, but his life and his living conditions are actually worse than the chief. So even though the chief is probably, you know, longing after Adora, it seems like Alan actually has the shittier situation despite quote-unquote winning, you know. So I thought that was cool. Speaking of contrast, by the way, this is a very small one, but at the beginning of the episode, when you see the detective naked in bed and Camille is fully clothed next to him, it really makes it, you know, obvious how odd that is. You know, we know why, obviously. She has the full body scarring, but it really makes it, like, jump out at you. I thought that was a cool sort of contrast as well. But, yeah, just little small things like that. I noticed little things like that throughout the episode, and I could honestly make an hour-long podcast just talking about the little intricacies and details of the way this show is. Because the way it's shot, you know, it's the way it's acted, everything. The writing, it's just such a I feel like a broken record, but it's such a well-done show, man. It's just really, really good. But getting to other things now, you know, there's something weird going on with Amma and John Keane. You know, you see Amma kind of laying it on pretty thick, flirting, not even really flirting, like saying, like, hey, let's go to the shed and, like, have sex, basically, is what she's saying. And John's responses are, you know, a little inappropriate considering he's talking to a child. Now, I don't know how young she is. Like, if he's a senior, what is she, a freshman or something? She's in high school, right? So she's not that young, but it's still creepy. You know, obviously, you know, John's got a girlfriend, so that's one thing. But it's just weird. It's a weird dynamic. It's not an appropriate relationship, and it's not like he was returning the flirting, but he was saying, like, what did he say? He said something like, you know, you're a dirty little girl. That's like a weird wording. It's creepy. It's like creepy and predatory. So, you know, for somebody who's accused of murdering little girls, it seems like, I don't know. John Keane's a weird cat. He's a weird cat. Amma, by the way, is a fucking nut job. She's doing Oxy now, and X apparently. So they're at this high school party, and she's doing that. So is Camille apparently, because she's, you know, she's kind of influenced by Amma or whatever, or just her own pull towards addiction anyway. But she's getting trashed at this high school party. I would have bet any amount of money this is not going to end well. Something's going to go wrong, but they really didn't. It seemed pretty fine actually. They just skated through town. You know, they had a philosophical conversation about Machiavelli and, you know, fear versus love and whatever. And it ended up, you know, with them spinning around in the yard. So not too bad. Obviously, when they're spinning around in the yard, there's a bunch of images of dead girls, and that's probably not great. But I feel like that's happening regardless of the drugs that Camille was on. And I also just want to mention the attention to detail with Camille's eyes being super dilated, like specifically when they're sitting in the back of that truck. And you see her just kind of staring out at the light or whatever, and her eyes are so dilated from the drugs. That's such a nice attention. Like, they didn't have to put that kind of detail into the show. It's just another example of the layers and the complexities of this show and how really well made the whole thing is. Like, the entire bones of this show, story aside, which is a great story, the entire bones of this show are just so solid and so just great. It's just a great show. And speaking of that, I wanted to touch a little further on the whole spinning scene. So there's a shot of them spinning around. Camille's talking about she wants to move to, where is it, St. Louis, and it keeps flashing between all the dead girls in Camille's life, and it was pretty jarring. It was like a jarring scene. Then as they go in the house, they're walking up the stairs, and you see the ghost version of her sister, peering up the stairs after Camille and Emma, and that was pretty jarring. I've said that before. I don't know if that's... I have to go back to the earlier episodes. I don't know if that's been happening the entire season. I noticed it for the first time, I think it was 2 episodes ago, when Camille's running down the stairs and you see the sister up top, but it's really, really creepy. The way it's done, it's always kind of in the background, it's always subtle. It's creepy, man. It's a really creepy shot. Then, of course, the final shot of the entire episode, when you see her, she grabs Camille's hand and says, quote, "It's not safe for you here," right after Adora peeks into the room. Now, that part obviously can be interpreted in a number of ways, but the sister, has been somewhat of a guide for Camille recently, so it's definitely, it's not an accident, especially if they're going to end the episode on that. That's probably a pretty powerful line. It's probably foreshadowing something, because like I said, she has been a guide. She led Camille to Emma's location in that shed last episode. She seems to be warning her now. Now, I don't believe that it's actually a supernatural thing that's happening, by the way. I think that she just kind of represents Camille's inner instincts. But still, it's interesting. It definitely seems to be foreshadowing something, like I said. We also got a lot more flashbacks to the cheerleading incident. It seems like this is the moment that really led to her cutting, because we see flashbacks to it, and then we see her in the football field afterwards, and there's blood running down her leg. We find out that she carves the word cherry, which is the name of the episode. She carves the word cherry into her leg, and that's where the blood's coming from. So it seems like, I don't know if that was her first word that she cut in there, but it seems like that's the first. She started cutting immediately after this cheerleading incident, and then also they flash back to her first getting in the cheerleading outfit and kind of showing it off and being happy. So it seems like this is the real big switch between, her being a happy, carefree girl and her being really sad. And I'm sure this lines up with the sister dying as well, because I think all these things sort of came together at the same time. That's what it seems like to me. So obviously a lot of things going wrong all at once, and that's what led to, the broken person that is adult Camille. This also led to one of the cooler lines from the episode, when that woman drives her home and says that she saw the cut in her thigh or whatever, but then she says, cherry, it made sense. We were so shiny, luscious on the outside, but on the inside there's that dark, hard pit, which is such a cool imagery, such great symbolism. Like, it was just a really cool line within a show. Like, it was one character saying it to the other one. But if you look at that from a writing perspective, it was just really cool. It was a cool sort of literary thing. And then back in the present timeline as well, that music teacher guy who we found out last episode is one of the people that raped Camille, he actually apologized for it and said it's haunted him for years. And understandably, Camille she's not too receptive to it. She's like, oh, I guess we both got fucked then. She was like really salty about it, snapped right back at him, and I mean, good. But it is interesting because no one else really brought it up. Like in the last episode, it seems like the other people were kind of joking about it, and they didn't think it was a big deal, but obviously this is something that's bothered this guy. This guy seems like he's broken in a lot of ways too, and then there's kind of a creepiness between him and the young girls, Emma and her friends or whatever. I feel like there's creepy vibes there as well. So I don't know how this has affected him. I don't know, like I said, I think he's broken, but we don't know how that sort of manifests itself, and I don't know, what has he done? Because you have Camille, obviously, who cuts, and she has a drinking problem, seems pretty prone to just doing drugs on a whim too. What's wrong with this guy? Because on the surface, we don't know anything specifically that's wrong with him. But it seems like if this moment has haunted him for this many years, similar to how that moment's haunted Camille, that he would also have some sort of pretty, big skeletons in his closet. And it'd be interesting to see what those are as the show progresses. This, of course, all takes place at this cheerleader get-together. When I'm talking present timeline now, they have all the old cheerleaders all getting together and just crying and stuff. That was the scariest scene in the show to me so far. Like, that was a nightmare situation. And it also led to a really cool line. I forget, I didn't write it down, so I'm definitely going to mess it up. But she said something that how if you have like internal conflicts or whatever, create internal conflicts, then, it allows you to live, a dull life without having to admit to being a dull person or something like that. It was like I just definitely butchered that, but it's really good. It's a really cool line said by Camille outside in the backyard of that party. So I thought that was cool. And I'll wrap things up by talking about, the new developments in the case. But first, I got to say, shout out to Woodford Reserve, my favorite bourbon, finally, because every single time they go to the bar, they always get like Maker's Mark or whatever. And I don't like Maker's Mark. I think it's too sweet. I don't know. I don't like it. So Woodford Reserve, that's my shit. That's like my favorite drink. They're drinking it like good too. They're distilled ice cubes, some real bourbon snobbery. I love it, man. I love it. And then, of course, right back to the detective ordering Jim Beam. So right back to gross. But little shout out to Woodford Reserve. And they even say, too, they're like, this is a good bourbon, but the ice cubes make it. Large ice cubes, too, so they don't dissolve as much. So you get some of the water in there, but it's not, you're basically just chilling it without completely watering it down. Just really good. I mean, it made me want a Woodford Reserve. Might actually make one after this. We'll see. But anyway, on to the developments in the case. So they find Ann Nash's bike at the bottom of a pond at the slaughterhouse property. They bring out Bob Nash to come identify it. He sees it, starts sobbing immediately. Adora's there. She's actually the one that tipped off the Chief Vickery. She tipped him off about the bike in the first place. Everyone else is kind of left in the dark. So that's a little weird anyway. It's weird. And obviously Adora owns this property, so I guess they're going to look at the employee records for the past 5 years and whatever. But that was a pretty big deal. I think they said it was the first piece of physical evidence since the discovery of the body. So obviously a big deal. John Keene's girlfriend has some sort of bite mark on her ear. We don't know what that's all about yet. They ask her about it, and she seems like really taken aback, and she's like, how did you know about that or whatever? So we don't know. We didn't get any clarification on it, but that's obviously something. And if you want to take it a step further, the little girls are missing all their teeth, right? So just a common connection there, a common thread. The girls are missing their teeth. This girl got bit on the ear, apparently. I don't know who bit who. I don't know what happened, but could be a coincidence, could be connected. We'll see. We'll see on that. There's also the quote, if you want to know about Natalie, you should ask your mom, which is very interesting. So Natalie, obviously, is John Keene's sister. It seems like, and this seems like a pretty plausible theory, too. It seems like Adora knows more about her, has something more to do with it. Because we keep finding out, like the connection between Adora and these little girls are really strong, which is weird, right? We don't know why or what sort of relationship they had before Camille got there, but it seems like there's more and more coming out constantly about that. So, John Keene's girlfriend sort of implies you should do a little more digging into Adora's relationship with Natalie, and that's interesting, too. We also don't get any more clarity on that, but it's a thread. It's a thread to pull on. And that'll do it for this companion podcast. Little news and notes. I'm going to Scandinavia, leaving Wednesday, going to Norway, and then Denmark after that. But it's a little 10-day thing, so I won't be back until the 25th. So as far as this podcast goes, obviously you have this week's episode. I'm going to miss Sunday's episode unless I find a way to watch it. Although I went to Spain last year, and I don't think you can watch HBO Go overseas. Like once you're in a different IP address, I think it doesn't work. I could be wrong about that, but I think I'm going to miss that. But I come back Friday, right? So I think if I watch this Sunday episode when I get back at some point and then record a quick podcast, I should be able to have it out by the weekend. If not, I might just skip a week. I'm not sure. I'm honestly not sure. And then I'll do a double episode covering next week and the week after. So we'll see. I don't know about that, but luckily Succession's over. So this is the only podcast I'm doing right now. I will be back though. I'm just going on a vacation. But if you don't see an episode at the normal time next week, that's why. But nevertheless, please rate, review, subscribe, give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Just tell people about this. Tell a friend about this. Tell them about the website, thedisorderly.com. Disorderly Media on Twitter, Disorderly ENT on Facebook. My name is Nick Rizner. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Rizner, NickRizner. Thinking about doing a sports podcast as well. So any sports fans out there, I think we might be developing some sort of weekly sports podcast where I just cover whatever's going on in the world of sports. So right now it'd be, preseason football and the playoff chase in baseball. I guess also the PGA Championship today. So it's stuff like that. Like whatever the big stories are, I'll cover that. So that is in the works. But yeah, that'll do it. I hope you guys enjoy your week. I will see you in, I don't know, a little over a week and a half maybe, based on this vacation I'm going on. So that's it. Try not to miss me too much. Peace, guys.